Hello, Internet, and welcome to Hot Topic. This is Hot Topic from sayreportjr. One of our first of what will surely be many banked episodes if we ever happen to miss a week, or our schedules don't line up. And so we choose a kind of larger topic to talk about and debate and all that fun stuff. And I just completely sprang the name of this whole thing on on Dale. But
Oh my god. That's way better than Junior Bank or
so this
Bank
is
Junior, whatever
hot
we're gonna
topic,
call
hot topic number one, and also the store. We are the store now.
it.
We've
I
got
was, I
we've
was
got your
like,
Nightmare on Elm Street, not Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh God, oh dear.
that might have to be a topic of discussion at some
uh,
point.
in like
Um,
when they officially become the merchandising store of the Nutcracker in the Four Realms. Uh,
yeah,
that's
I
for
know.
another day.
Seriously,
That is for
that is for
another day,
another
Zach.
day. I meant
Oh,
Nightmare Before Christmas, but we can
oh,
just move past that for now.
uh, our names. So this is Say Report Junior,
Our
one of
names.
our one of our just kind of in the past banked episodes in case our schedules don't line up or whatever. We wanted to make sure we didn't miss a week.
Yeah.
I am one of your host companions, Zach Sarowick.
And I am your other host companion from the past, Dale Decker.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Uh,
Yeah,
so we
so
went back and forth a couple of times today trying to kind of figure out what our first thing was going to be.
yeah.
And I actually didn't tell you how I came up with our topic for today.
Oh,
So
okay.
we landed on just kind of talking about our like kind of our general feelings on reviews like for movies and games and review scores and review sites because we talk a lot about like how we watch movies and play games and stuff. But I don't think we've ever really talked about like when something is coming out, where
No.
we go to look for it and stuff like that. Because I think largely we both kind of go, well, we know we're going to see that, so I'm just not going to watch anything
Exactly.
or
And
read anything.
I feel like we try it seems like we each try to stay away from things that we really care about. But yeah,
Such
also I just before it gets out of my mind, this is going to be the most like meta or most Inception like episode because we're doing a review on reviews.
we
So
heard you like reviews, so we put reviews in
in
your
your
reviews.
reviews, all the memes.
Oh my God. When was the last time that was? I don't even remember the name of the show. I
I
just
don't
remember that
even
it's
know.
Exhibit. How bad is that? Oh my
I don't think
God.
it's even used anymore. I think like
Oh, of course.
yeah.
The only time Exhibit comes up anymore is that every Halloween people remember that he's in Halloween Resurrection and Kung Fu fights Michael Myers, which
Uh, nice.
um, so the reason that I was thinking about this today is there's I don't know, a bunch of different threads came up today for a couple of different things on Twitter. Yesterday, there was a thing that came up where Lena Dunham, who was one of the creators on Girls,
hmm
has a new show coming out, and with Jennifer Garner and a couple of other people, and a reviewer for this show that has not premiered yet, said that Jennifer Garner's character was unlikable, and it became like a whole conversation about what unlikable even means and what it was in the context. I've never even seen the actual original review of this thing, just people responding to their
Responding
review
and like
and then responding to
retweeting.
the response of the
Yeah.
review. Yeah. And then today, have you ever seen or heard any of the CinemaSins stuff on
I
YouTube?
have and I hate it.
Oh, thank you. I
Um
do too. So I've
oh,
got a
thank
whole
God.
conversation with the guy on Twitter today. Because here's the thing: I've never bothered to watch them. Like this is me straight up saying, I've decided completely prematurely without ever watching them that I don't like the videos or the concept, and so I've
Mhm.
never bothered.
Mhm.
Um, but I did get a conversation with a guy on Twitter today who does watch them and does like them because he seems. What was weird is that seems to have a completely different idea of what those videos are than
Are.
I do.
Mhm.
The difference being he has watched them, so he has a little bit more context.
Yeah.
But like for anybody that doesn't know, CinemaSins is a YouTube channel where their biggest video, I don't know if it's their only video series, but their biggest video series is usually titled like Everything Wrong with Blank,
Blank
and it's
in
usually the title of a movie.
yeah.
And then where they go
Um
through and they point out plot holes and things that they think don't work and all this other stuff,
yeah,
which
I'm
to me
trying
just
to
reads very
yeah,
negatively.
no. It's supposed to be like a joke. Like it definitely is supposed to not be as negative as it seems. It's just it gets so annoying.
It's very hard from like the
Um,
outside to like get that vibe from it either
yeah,
because like
yeah.
I don't know. For
If
some
you,
reason I've
yeah,
always seen people react to it as, "Oh, look, they're being jerks about a movie again." And today was literally the first time I ever found someone being like, "Oh, they're actually kind of funny and I watched them for this other reason." It's like
yeah.
there's a positive way to watch
Well,
those.
yeah, no,
So
my
that was the thing that threw me off.
I have friends who watch it for that reason. Like they watch it because they find humor in it. And I will admit, I say that I hate them. I don't love the word hate, so I should probably not use it as much as I do. But I just don't find the same enjoyment in them. There have been things that my friends have shown me from Cinema Sings that have made me like giggle, just because of how ridiculous it is. But I just don't. I really don't like how it's structured. I don't. The every time there's a sin, there's like a ding sound, and for some
Right.
reason, like it bothers me. Like there's so many that it gets under my skin. Um, it's also I don't know. It's just yeah, like someone could look at it as a negative way, and it, I don't know. I don't know. It's
But overall, like the whole thing just had me kind of thinking about just kind of reviews in general today.
mm,
And also, and I mean, a lot of this also came up when we did our Infinity War episode.
yeah.
And we talked about that article that came out where that guy from the New Yorker was like, seemed to completely misunderstand the concept of a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, they were not the only ones that kind of had that criticism of kind of the MCU at large, and this idea that it gets to a point where some of them you just cannot watch without seeing a bunch of other movies, and not even like movies in the same set. Like
Mm.
you can't watch like Civil War and have only watched Captain
Captain
America, the
America.
first
Yeah.
Avenger,
No.
or and Winter Soldier. Like those three movies don't work as a trilogy.
No.
Um, and so like I have been trying to kind of figure this out, I guess for most of the year now, is this concept of like the difference between writing a film review and reading a film review and what you get out of that versus writing like a full-on criticism kind of thing and a critique,
Hmm. Okay.
and like trying to kind of figure out how those two things blend together. Because I mean, like, obviously, I don't think a review should just be like three lines of this is good, you should watch it, or this is bad, or this audience will like this and this audience won't. So I don't know. Like, I
Yeah.
get why there needs to be kind of more deep thought criticism put into reviews. At the same time, I find it like really annoying when a review just seems to be like, well, this wasn't for me, and therefore I'm going to shit on
Shit on
everything,
it. Yeah.
as opposed to
So
as
it's
opposed to there is an audience somewhere, I just wasn't the audience for it.
yeah. It's
But
really weird. Like I've had this problem with reviews and I mean we're going to get into it with Rotten Tomatoes. And it's that like everyone is now a critic and everyone is now a reviewer. And it's so okay, so to bring it back all the way is that like when the Emoji Movie and not even the Emoji Movie, I'm also going to bring in up Valerian and City of a Thousand Planets, right? Which I don't know if you've seen either of those or either of those.
I have not.
Okay, but the reviews for both of them weren't the best. Um and for Emoji Movie, it really bothered me because it just seemed like nobody was giving it any thought that it might be okay to do. Um and it's like how can you even and I understand that like maybe there's some hypocrisy in this when I say this, but like how can you judge it? It's the old saying of you can't judge a book by its cover. Like you can't judge it before you even experience it. Um and yeah, everybody does it, but with a movie, when you're a reviewer or a critic, I feel like if that is what you call yourself, you can't jump to conclusions before you see it. That's just my personal stance on it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, like there are the idea that they're like the idea of the like the think piece and things that are out there
mm,
right now, where it's like this movie is coming out or has been announced, and before there's even a trailer, let alone someone has sat down and watched it, there's 1,000 articles about what it's going to
yes,
be or what it
yeah,
might mean and all that, based entirely on like who's involved and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes that is a worthwhile conversation if like the people involved are crappy people for various reasons in their past.
Yes.
Like I think that's a perfectly valid conversation to have, but that is not a criticism or a review of the film itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would like to think that my complicated feelings on wanting to watch the Emoji Movie at this point are because I have read many articles or listened to a couple of podcasts
Yeah.
about people who had actually sat down and watched it, and I have a largely idea of what that movie is,
Yeah.
but it is completely clouded by the people who saw it and were giving me their voicing their opinion.
Their
Is
opinions
the
on
other
it.
side to that? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also it also comes to like you said, the whole, like, you see a trailers, right? And it brings back, like, you can't judge. Trailers are there to help you decide whether or not you're going to see it. So that's why, like, yes, obviously people are judging things before they've even seen it, because that is what we are used to. That is what we are shown. We are shown a snippet of something and see, like, hey, you might like this, you might not. But to just completely just be like, this movie is going to be awful, to say that sentence, that's different than being like, this movie is not gonna be for me. Like, I can see the Halloween movie, the Halloween 2 trailer, and be like, that movie's not gonna be for me, and I'm not gonna go see it. But I'm never going to say, oh, that movie's awful, that movie looks terrible. Like, and usually when I say that movie looks terrible, I mean it jokingly, and it usually means I'm going to go see it.
Yeah, because like that movie looks terrible. Because if I look at a trailer and a movie looks bad, my immediate reaction is, oh man, when I see that, I hope I at least laugh at it. Like that's like
Yeah.
my whole like I never go into a movie wanting to just be bored out of my mind.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
when the Venom trailers came out, and I immediately went, okay, these things are not good. This is not going to be an MCU level movie.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what I want out of the trailer that I just saw.
Exactly.
I know exactly what I want my experience to be going in. And it's not because I expect the movie to be amazing. It's because I expect to have fun watching it for many different reasons.
Yeah. And it comes back, so, like, I'm jumping all around, but
That's fine.
to go back to the CinemaSins thing, those are less reviews than just like, we're gonna poke fun at this movie that everybody loves, because sometimes we need to bring people to, like, back to reality and be like, yes, this is a movie that you love and it's okay that you love it, but you need to understand that there are still some things wrong with it.
Which I'm fine
which
with.
I'm fine with as well. That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
But it's done in a way that just doesn't work for me. Like, I can love a Disney movie, or I really like the first Avengers movies, but I can also take a step back and be like, yeah, but they're terrible movies. Like, they're not really good.
Yeah, especially before that Disney money started coming in for them. They
Yeah.
really were rough because they weren't sure what they were still finding their footing.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think yeah, it's the negative, unappealing package that's put in. I think that bothers me
Yeah.
about that. 'Cause
No,
it's like,
and I get that. Yeah, it's weird. I can't watch them anymore because it's like, yeah, this is funny, but it's really, like, it's so obvious. Like, you're pointing out the obvious things and getting humor out of it. Like, you're not really doing anything.
and I think there's like a tone to take with that, and maybe they do this again. This is completely. Well, let me put it this way, because this comparison was also brought up. The conversation I was having today about it, the person said that they get a lot of the same stuff out of CinemaSins that they get out of watching Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah.
I love Mystery Science Theater 3000. I don't think I would get the same thing out of watching CinemaSins. And I think a big part of that is that as much as they are making fun of these old movies, they also clearly like watching them.
Yeah.
Like they like to me, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is so much more about the idea of sitting around, watching something cheesy with your friends.
Mhm.
And it's about, like, just kind of looking at this in a weird way, it's this weird archival history of movies. Like these are movies that would never be remembered if they
Yeah.
weren't on Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
And, they kind of remind you that these days people are like, oh, everybody's churning out crap left and right. It's like they're always churning out crap. The studio system was nothing but churning out crap
They
for
were just
years
able to do more of
because
it.
right, because the whole idea, and this is the idea they still do today,
Yeah.
is oh, we can make a horror movie or a sci-fi movie really cheap because we can hire character actors from TV who don't demand a lot of money,
Hmm.
and we can make really cheap sets. And if we make $1 million off of the 50,000 we spent on this thing, hey, guess what? We just made a bunch of money, so we don't care. It was only $1 million,
Yeah.
and so like I don't know, like the idea of like sitting down and just pointing out everything illogical and every plot hole and every weird
Hmm.
moment in a movie is not the same as like
Well,
just making fun of a guy's like weird line read.
exactly. Yeah. No,
Like,
and you've like hit it on the head. Like, and the thing with CinemaSins, and I haven't really seen a lot of Mystery Science Theater, but I know what it is. Like, I know what they do. I know that it's also in real time. Like, it is like you are sitting down watching the movie, and there's just like funny commentary. CinemaSins, it's trying to like speed through the movie.
right,
So
it's like
it
condensed down to however many minutes the
exactly.
videos averagely
Exactly.
are. Yeah.
And I mean, for me, the good thing, I still don't watch it because it has gotten to the level where I'm like, this is not funny anymore to me. It's like, if I don't want to see a movie, or if I like haven't seen a movie and I kind of want to know what's going on with it, CinemaSins is kind of a good thing to go to for that. Like say I don't know. Let's say they did one on Schindler's List. I've never seen Schindler's List. Okay, but if I was like, oh, I just want to know what Schindler's List is about and everything about it and all of that, and I didn't like have the time or need or like was like I don't want to sit down and watch it, even though I do. Like I fully do intend to sit down at some point and watch Schindler's List. Um,
That was one of those ones I slept through in high school. I'm a bad person.
it's being re-released in the theater, so like I'm probably gonna go see it. But like CinemaSins, you get through it in like 15 to 20 minutes. You understand everything, and yeah, you're probably gonna remember some things better because there's humor added to it. But at the same time, I like sitting down and watching movies. I like having the experience for myself, and then I do like going back and sitting down with my friends or with like and just and or like Devin. Devin and I do it all the time where we will put on a movie and we will just riff on it. But it's I don't know, it just feels different.
It no,
You are entirely correct that it is a different experience altogether. And if CinemaSins was in real time, it might be better. I think it would be better. Uh, so yeah.
yeah. So I didn't mean for this to start out
No, no, no,
as
no.
shitting on CinemaSins, but
But
I am going to use that to transition.
I think we brought up some good points.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect transition into shitting on Rotten Tomatoes. So
Yes.
here's the thing about Rotten Tomatoes. Here's my problem with Rotten Tomatoes. Here, let me start there with my I statements. My biggest problem that I've come to feel, I will apologize for them sometimes because I don't think it's as bad as people say. I think there's too much weight put on Rotten Tomatoes by like studios and stuff who like to
Yes.
stamp things fresh and all that. But my biggest problem is that they completely remove all nuance from criticism and turn it into a black and white up or down thing. Which means that if you do have a reviewer that's like, I don't think this audience is going to like this movie, but I think this audience will love it because it will speak to them in a different way or something, how the hell does Rotten Tomatoes review that as a positive or negative and decide if it's a positive or negative thing? Like, and so all of a sudden your score of like a 50% Rotten Tomato score movie doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad movie or that even 50% of the critics didn't like it. It just means that by whatever metric they created while they were kind of deciding what's a positive and negative review, that's how the 50-50 came out. And that's what annoys the hell out of me because I'd have no idea if I can trust the numbers on it. So
Yeah, no, I don't get the numbers at all. Like I never get it. So, yeah, I understand that.
So according to them, like the critic score is like they compile reviewed movies from a number of publications. I think it has to be at least 10 for them to put a score up.
Hmm.
I don't know if critics can go on there directly. And maybe that's the other thing that's a little confusing. I don't know how many of those are critiques specifically written to go on to Rotten Tomatoes, or I know that they're pulling stuff like from the New York Times and from
Yeah.
LA Times and all this other stuff. And so they're looking at the review, deciding if it's a positive or negative review, and then going, okay, 50% of the critics that we looked at said that it was a good movie, and 50% said it was a bad movie, and so it's a 50% movie.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
and then it's also really weird when they're like, "What we're going to
yeah.
certify fresh," because sometimes that movie's at 60% and sometimes it's at 80, but then there's stuff at 90% that they never certify. Like I have no
Hmm.
idea what that process is.
Yeah, yeah, it does not make sense. Like it's never made sense to me at least, and it seems like to you, but it's just like it seems more comment based too. Like
Yeah. So then because they have the audience score side of that too,
yeah.
which I mean,
It's not
like
like you're
all
going on
online.
there. It's not like you're going on there and being like script highly satisfied, like acting highly satisfied,
Some
production
there
highly
are
sat
some
like
that do that.
you're not doing a
There's
survey, right?
no. I mean, they're not specifically, but there are definitely people who go on there and treat their like audience score criticism like they're writing a professional review, which is always funny. But also, the person doing that is usually kind of a tool.
Well, but
'Cause-
here's the thing: if you're gonna, but no, okay, but if you're gonna write a review, I think, and you're gonna call yourself like a reviewer or something, I think you kind of have to, in a sense. Like,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
there are people in the world who are gonna act like an asshole and gonna act like I'm better than you because I can do this, and some of those people are, that's what they've known and it's all that whatever, and some of the people are like I'm better than you but I'm acting like an asshole, like I'm not really better than you, I'm just acting like I'm better than you. But there are those people, like that's kind of what my problem with it is that like I feel like these reviews and these criticisms and all that, I have to sneeze so bad, oh god. I feel like these reviews and these criticisms, like for me, if you're gonna review a movie, and this is just me, this is just how I view it, I think it should be based on loosely on the auteur theory, which I'm really bad at explaining. But do you know what the auteur theory is?
I mean, not from a film standpoint as well as like books and stuff.
Okay, I can really give a
If I can even
rough.
remember the books and stuff,
I
but
could just give a dirty, like rough one because I don't remember it perfectly. But basically, it's like you there's like three circles, and if you can hit in all three of the circles, you're considered an auteur. So it's basically like your own style. If you have technical competence and your I don't remember the third one, but it's basically like that's what it is. But movies, if you are a reviewer, a true blue reviewer, like you are writing articles, you are going to these review sites and gonna put up a thing up there or a score, it should be based on technical competence. It should be based on the script, the acting, the production, the lighting, the like it should be based on the production as a whole. And that's just where I'm coming from.
and that's I
I
mean
like
I understand that, and that's kind of largely what I look for too. Like I want someone to
yeah.
be able to I want someone first off, like I think this goes under that same thing. A reviewer should be able to watch a movie and understand what the like director was going for and
Exactly.
the writer were going for. And then from there, did the movie achieve that? And
Mhm.
then you can have whole other kind of conversations about whether that goal they were aiming for was worth it in the first place and all that other stuff. But I mean, as far as just a review of how well the movie is made and whether or not an audience is going to enjoy sitting down and watching it, yes, they should be able to be like, okay, this was clearly the intent of this movie,
Mhm.
and did it hit that?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but I feel like reviews now are way more opinion based. It's like I didn't like it, so you're not gonna like it, or like I didn't like it, so I mean, think about our review of Friends from College. Neither one of us liked it, so we don't recommend it to people. But Devin, on the other hand, loved Friends from College. So, but we also don't call ourselves reviewers.
That's very true.
So,
I very specifically don't review
like,
things because I feel like I
exactly.
would be bad at it because that
Yeah,
would be my
no.
whole thing would be like, no, you don't understand. This is why you're wrong. Let me tell you.
Like, I feel like if you're going to submit to Rotten Tomatoes or submit to these review sites, you need to take out your personal opinion. You need to be like, was it, yeah, exactly what you said. Did it achieve what it wanted to do? Yeah? Okay. Then here's my score for it. But you cannot like a movie too. Like, I'm trying to think of
Well, there's like
I'm trying to think of like older movies that I had to watch in class that I didn't enjoy, but I understand why they're important. Like 400 Blows.
oh my
Um,
God, I've seen 400
yeah.
Blows.
So 400
Oh
Blows.
God, I just remembered 400 Blows. Okay,
Flashbacks, right?
yeah.
I don't really have any kind of feeling towards 400 Blows. I remember like when I watched it, I'm like, oh my God, this is dragging on and on and on. But I do remember parts of that movie like bringing me like joy or happiness or something, and then other parts being like, oh God. But so that's not really a movie that I can say I loved or disliked, or more I disliked it because it was just, so long and everything. But I can sit here and be like, that is an important movie in the history of cinema. And it is a good movie because of that. But my own opinion of it is I never need to watch that again because it is so long. And there are parts of it that are just so drawn out that you don't even understand what's going on anymore.
I'm trying to. I think the only scene that's the one where like I think the whole reason we watch this movie is there's that one shot. I think it's toward the end where he's running for like 2 minutes
Yep.
solid,
Yeah.
and he's in the center of the screen the whole
Yeah. The
time.
whole time.
Yeah,
And
that's all I
then
remember
he
about that
gets to
movie.
the that's the end of the movie.
Yeah,
Spoilers
that's
for
all
the
I remember.
400 Blows. I don't
400
think
blows.
anyone
You
is
must.
gonna go watch it. But yeah, the whole ending of the movie is he gets sent to this boarding school and then he escapes the boarding school. And all his life, he's like 10. All his life, he's wanted to just see the ocean. So he gets to the ocean, and then there's the very final scene, the still of the film is just a still photo of him looking at the camera as if like, okay, I've seen the ocean. Now
Right.
what do I do? I'm still a young boy who needs to be told what to do, and I don't have any control over my life. Like, this was the one moment I had control, and now there's nothing else for me to do. So like, yeah.
So clearly, like important to talk about. Like you can talk about
Yes.
that movie
Yes.
without ever wanting to see it
Yeah.
again.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
and and I think like I mean it's I don't think it's as modern as people realize. I think it's just the fact that the internet has grown the number of people involved in media criticism as well as turning everybody on Twitter and Rotten Tomatoes into a critic. But like I think for a very long time, kind of the concept of media criticism, especially like movies and games and TV,
Yeah.
was we are going to give you our opinion from this one person, like Siskel and Ebert, where it's like you're going to get their opinion, but you're also going to go and get the opinion of multiple people and then put those together,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of decide. Which I think was a thing that which is where I think Rotten Tomatoes was coming from, was this idea of just aggregate all the scores together and you'll come out with an average from all of this stuff. And I think the problem being that we don't really read full reviews of things as much anymore.
Yeah. No, we just go to.
Especially because these days, like between trailers spoiling things and we have no idea if a review is going to spoil things,
Mhm.
and so much of that gets taken away when you read a review and it spoils something. I think so many people are like, I don't want to read 2,000 words on this because I don't want to know everything about the
Everything
movie.
about
I just want to
yeah.
know if it's worth me going to see.
Yeah.
And so that like, but I think that that's been going on for a very long time. I think it's just that the way people read reviews has shifted more than the way that we critique them. And of
Mm.
course, the problem being that everybody who's a media critic right now or a media reviewer right now went to school and was taught by people who in the 80s and 90s were critiquing things how they did it.
Yeah.
So they have a very that mindset is still there of like people haven't like shifted to figure out a better way to like find the audience for a thing and let them know that it's worth going to see and recognize that the people that it's not the audience for that doesn't mean it's a bad movie or a bad game. It just means that you're not the audience for it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also I think my whole idea of Rotten Tomatoes also comes from, well, I don't love that on the TV guide now. Like if you were to go through the TV guide, I don't love that the Rotten Tomatoes score is there. I don't love that the Rotten Tomatoes score is advertised in trailers and all of that. It's like it shouldn't be what makes me want to go see the movie or not. And it's trying to be.
Right. It's trying to condense.
Um,
It's trying to be the shorthand and the
Yes.
condensing of information into all in one
Yeah.
place and all of that. And it just that's we should be encouraging people to go outside of
Yeah.
things, not like condense all into one thing.
I
Have
mean,
you ever
no, go
gone to
ahead.
Metacritic, which is essentially like
No.
proto Rotten Tomatoes? So
No.
Metacritic is essentially Rotten Tomatoes, but I think mostly for video games. They might do TV and movies now too, but Metacritic is
I've heard them
literally
more associated with video games, I think.
yeah, they literally the same exact kind of concept. The difference is that because game reviews for so long were done on a 10-point or 100-point scale and stuff like that, like it wasn't just like you were getting slightly more nuanced numbers out of that because we were getting an average of review scores across the board. So something would be like a 7.0 game and stuff like that. The biggest problem that came with Metacritic is that companies started tying bonuses for like how well a game did
Oh.
to a Metacritic score,
Oh.
which meant that like a handful of review sites giving like deciding that they didn't think your game was worth their time could tank the bonuses for your workers. Like and regardless
That's
of whether or not that
crazy.
score translated to a game not selling well. It was just became this idea for publishers to be like, well, that's our excuse for why the game didn't sell well. Not that the game was made badly or that we need to change our business practices or anything, but that because this game was scored poorly, we didn't make enough sales and now everybody's not getting paid as much. And it
Yeah.
became this weird like shove off of things. And we kind of see that now. First off, what I love is that Metacritic's about to get really screwed because game sites are increasingly getting away from scored reviews now. They are doing the full. They're trying to figure out how to do spoiler-free reviews without putting a score at the end, so that people come and read the stuff
Yeah.
and kind of get an idea out of that. Because specifically because companies were doing that, and like media, like games journalists were like, we are not getting our hands dirty on this one.
Yeah,
Screw
no.
you guys.
That's
But
insane.
I think but I think that's the thing that also then turns around and fuels the like DC fans on Rotten Tomatoes, because I think a lot of those people saw, well, like being, young kids playing video games and seeing Metacritic stuff and being in that culture of god awfulness sometimes. I think then turned around and went, oh, see, Rotten Tomatoes is a website just like Metacritic, and their bad reviews of games are going to destroy the DCEU. And it's like, no, first off, Rotten Tomatoes isn't actually scoring anything. They're just
Yeah, no.
aggregating things poorly, but they're aggregating things. And like I didn't need to go to Rotten Tomatoes to know I wasn't going to go see like I had to wait to go see Justice League.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um
I
so
don't.
I think that's the biggest problem of like those aggregation sites at all. Again, it's just that it tries to condense so much information into a score,
Yeah.
and it just loses all nuance that way.
Yeah, it's just it's so weird that it's been incorporated. Like I feel like Rotten Tomatoes has been way more integrated into society within the past few years, and I don't. It's so freaky to me. Like it's creepy that Rotten Tomatoes is. I don't know how to like what to call it, but it's just part of society and part of like the language and the I don't know, like it's
Like,
weird
all of a
that
sudden
it's
now
in
there's-
marketing. It's weird
Right.
that it's in marketing. Like and it freaks me out that it it is in marketing because it's almost like it has a monopoly on reviews and on movies in general. You
And in a lot
know?
of ways, it
Like
does because it's the. I mean, it's again, it's the thing that says like, come to us to get all of your information
exactly,
as
yeah.
opposed to having to go. Because it also doesn't help. And I mean, this is just my own media criticism now coming out, but it doesn't help that a lot of the sites that they're getting their stuff from and they're putting them up there, those sites are paywalled. Like
Yeah.
I can't go if I go and read 4 articles on the New York Times website right now, I'm locked out of it until the end of the month.
Yeah, it's
So if I want
crazy.
to go read their movie review, I can't do that, but I can on Rotten Tomatoes. I can go find their movie reviewer on Rotten Tomatoes, and they've been put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And
it brings a whole nother of like this whole like money schemes too. Like I don't know. It's just so weird. It's so weird. And it's very strange to me that like when you talk about a movie, someone is like, "Oh yeah, well that's got a score of 58. I'm not going to see it." But why? That shouldn't be what determines you to not go see a movie. That
right,
makes no you understand. That makes no sense, right?
yeah,
Like
because then of course the audience score is often a reaction to the critic score more than
exactly.
it is anything else.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, Suicide Squad has like a 14%. Well, now it's getting 80% over here because everybody went, well, I'm gonna go see it, so screw you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
It's
then go
just
see it.
yeah. I
Like,
I think also like my weirdness towards Rotten Tomatoes is that I had to do a project in school where I needed to go to Rotten Tomatoes and choose 3 reviews and then write about the reviews. Like I had to go. It was basically a research project on Rotten
but via
Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
it was so weird. And it was almost like trying to teach us how to use Rotten Tomatoes. And it was just like, now it's being integrated in my lessons?
That
Why?
that is super strange. That
Right?
is like
Right?
super duper
And
strange.
I think it was on I want to say it was on The Godfather Part 2 because I had to write the majority of my
Are
papers
you
on that
telling me that
movie.
how is The Godfather Part 2 on Rotten Tomatoes anyway? Okay.
Every
Anyway,
movie is. Every movie pretty much is on Rotten Tomatoes.
I
It's
guess
like
I
they
never
go
really realized
back to
that.
it. Yeah.
I
It's
don't think I ever thought about that. I
yeah,
just kind of,
which
oh
which
God.
also doesn't make sense to me cuz it's like do you use the reviews from the 70s
Oh
to
God.
compile your percentage? Like or are there still people writing reviews on The Godfather Part 2?
It's like, well, we did a little showing here at an Alamo Draft House here in New York, and so we decided to write up a little bit about well, our thoughts on how the
Yeah, like it
Godfather
doesn't.
Part 2 has held up over time.
Yeah,
Oh dear God, we pulled the Rotten Tomatoes rating down by a percentage. What did we do?
yeah, like that's that part of it too. But I think it might have been Rotten Tomatoes, Godfather Part 2 that I had to do this for. But it was just so weird. And yeah, I mean now I will say, and it's kind of crazy, but if I do wanna I will admit, like I go to Rotten Tomatoes and I'll look at if I want to really read a review of something, I will go to Rotten Tomatoes and I will click on the reviews and then I will immediately stop because I'm like, no, like this is ridiculous because I'm done.
I use it. This is going to sound really dumb, but for whatever reason, Rotten Tomatoes is the easiest website to figure out what the hell's coming out in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, that
Where
too.
it's like that's the only thing I really use it for. Is I go for like if I for whatever reason want to see how the movies did this weekend, if like something came out and I want to
Mm-hmm.
see how well it did, they got that number right on the front page, and then I can see everything else that's coming out. I don't even look at the freaking score next to the thing
Yeah,
anymore.
no.
I just want to know like dates and dollars numbers. I don't care about
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah,
Like,
I've never really cared about the score or anything like that, but it's weird. Like we've said all this stuff about Rotten Tomatoes and kind of been bashing on Rotten Tomatoes, and yet we both just admitted that we also still go to it. I don't generally anymore. Like I found the IMDb review news page, and I usually go to IMDb now for my movie news or my movie reviews. Um,
their scoring system is fun because I think
I
people
don't.
forget that that's I think people
Yeah.
forget that that is only a customer rating. and or like a consumer viewer rating,
Yeah.
which mean and the only people that do remember that are the people who feel passionate enough one way or another about a movie to go on and
Yeah.
give it a rating.
Like that's another
So
one
it's
that
like
I never pay attention to because
yeah,
I'm
so
like
it's
I
like here's
don't.
people that absolutely hated this thing or absolutely love it, and they're just fighting in the comments
Yeah.
about it. And so
Yep.
everything is rated between 5 and 7%
Mhm.
on or like 5 and 7 stars
Yeah.
on IMDb because everything's like an average of very wide margins.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird. I don't get. I've never understood that either of where the scores come from. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna pay attention because these could literally be coming from nowhere, and no, not about
and
that.
it's and it's
But
and it's like especially when you get into like even like TV shows where like episode by episode you're watching those scores go up and down. It's like
yeah.
who cares about this?
Yeah.
The Smallville podcast I listen to, he looks at the IMDb score of everything, of every episode that he reviews, and everything is between 7 and 10%. That's it. That's the
Yeah.
only of the entire 10-year run of Smallville. Every episode is scored between 7 and 10% because the only people that reviewed it were fans of Smallville.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Like, and that score's probably never going to change because no
yeah,
one is really ever going to go. It's like, oh, I need to go score Smallville today.
yeah,
Like,
which I guess at the same time, if you just discovered Smallville and you kind of like it, that's probably actually a pretty good indication of whether or not the show's going to continue as
yeah.
strongly as you like it. If every other fan of the show who bothered to review the thing really likes it, you're probably going to feel the same way.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've definitely. Well, before I go into that, but it's to go back to my point of like we both admit that we have gone to Rotten Tomatoes with a purpose. It's
Yeah.
like it's like social media. It's like nobody loves social media, but we all still have Facebook.
I don't
We
think
all
I've
still
I don't think I've got a day without calling Twitter a hell site, and yet that's all I do all
exactly
day.
like it's so weird that like we don't like these things and yet you kind of need to work with them. It's like a bad coworker, all right? You don't like them, but you need because we live in the world, because we work at the institution or whatever. Like I'm just using analogies here. You have to still work with them. You still have to kind of get into a rhythm and get, you know, do it the way that you can get through it, you know? And it's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
it's
for
weird.
like
It's so
industry
weird.
standard. Yeah, like industry standard got set up at some point where like every movie site had to give it a four to, had to give it some sort of rating out of five
Yeah.
stars, and every game site had to go start giving reviews of everything out of 10 points. And all it did was mean that when they put up the headline for an article and they put the 7 out of 10 next to
Yep.
it, all of a sudden there's all of the super fans who were like, why didn't you give it an 8? And then all of the people who were like, you give everything a 7, and nobody's happy. Like nobody's happy with scores, and yet we are so tied to them
Yeah.
for
And
all of
it's,
this stuff.
yeah, the whole, even back when, like stars, like star systems were happening, like in the newspaper, it would have all the movies that came out, and it's like 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. It's like, what? Why are what? What is happening? Why are these a thing?
And that was the thing that I mean, part of it was the companies trying to brand themselves, but so a lot of that was back when we had more personality based like criticism. Like I think like Gene Shalit, Siskel and Ebert, Leonard Maltin, and so like the idea that those stars I think took on a little bit more weight because we had more weight behind the people writing them,
Yeah.
as opposed to these days where
Anybody can write anything.
especially when you consider that like reviews are probably one of the number one things any game site is going to have. Like it doesn't matter anything else you write, reviews are the things that get the hits and get people clicking on your website. And so like everybody has to know how to write them, which means that you've got 8 different people writing reviews for your website now. It's not just the critic from the New York Times, it's one of the critics from the New York Times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know. Do you use IMDb a lot?
I do if I like want to see what other for like the usual stuff of like, oh, what else have they been in,
like
or
actors?
and what's the trivia on this or that, or like
Mhm.
looking up writers and directors and stuff like that. Yeah, but
Okay, so
that's what I use it for. I
yeah.
don't use it for anything
So
else.
the general thing. Yeah, no,
Right.
like I said, I just really recently discovered the whole news section of it. And there were times where like the first thing in the morning I would be like, oh, I'm gonna go to the news section and see what's going on, and it's where I saw reviews for things or saw articles, like interesting articles about production histories of things or anything like that. But like, I'm finding more and more. I don't know why I just jumped to IMDb off of Rotten Tomatoes, but I
I mean,
think it's like a tell of like there's no perfect site any like for movies.
oh
And
no, no,
there's
and
never
again,
going to
because
be.
no, and that's a good thing in a lot of ways.
Oh
Like
yeah,
you don't want to be
definitely.
stuck to one website all the
Yeah.
time. But yeah,
Yeah. But it's crazy. Like we're IMDb is so weird because a lot of it is like you said, it's customer based kind of,
they have
and
those lists that are definitely just users
yeah, it's just user
creating those lists and all
exactly.
of that. Yeah,
Yeah. But there are like the trivia parts, right? And that's usually what I'll look for after a movie that I really enjoyed. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to go look at the trivia." And like some of the trivia is awful and is spoilers, and like it's branded so wrong. Like there will be a thing is a spoiler but it's not in the spoiler section, and
right.
there are things that are just blatantly wrong. Like it's like you did not watch the movie, this should not be here.
Yeah, and
It's
again,
crazy.
because it's a lot like Wikipedia in a lot of ways, where it's like
Yeah.
there are users who then have access to do things like add trivia and
Yep.
stuff. And I don't know if that's everybody or if that's just like a thing you submit and then someone has to go in and check it before it goes in, or if they just put it up there and then they check it if someone tells them it's wrong.
Mhm.
It's it's Calvin Ball in there.
It's very much like Wikipedia, especially since you can add to people's bios.
Oh God.
Like I could add to, I don't know, somewhat George Clooney. I don't know why that name is in my head, but George Clooney. Like I could go and add stuff to his bio. Like I know some insider secrets about George Clooney. Like no, I don't. Why is this even an option?
That's like you know what? Deborah Messing. So Deborah
Yeah.
Messing is from East Providence,
Yeah.
where I'm from and my family is from, and we very proud of that fact that Deborah Messing is from East Providence and all of that.
As well
If
you
you
should
look
be.
at, I actually don't know. I'm gonna go look up the page right now and see if it still says it. But the last time I looked up her thing on IMDb, don't know why I did, but I did. It said that she was from East Greenwich
Ooh.
in her bio. And it was like,
Ooh.
okay. It says outside Providence, but then it says East Greenwich. East
Ooh.
Greenwich is not outside Providence. It's on the
No.
other side of the state.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, that's
like
completely opposite ends there,
while I'm
guys.
looking this up, I was also looking at Tom Hardy's page. I didn't remember the name of the movie. But speaking of starred reviews, the best use I ever saw for one. Did you ever see the poster for the Tom Hardy film Legend, where he played the twins? And
No, I never saw.
so
Did I see the poster? I don't think so. I don't remember.
So there was a poster that had all of the starred reviews up because it was getting all these great reviews. It was one of those posters where it's like, here's 1,000
Here's
different
Oliver?
that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
4 and 5 stars. So down in between, so it's got, two photos of Tom Hardy because he's playing twins.
Yeah.
So down in between them is they snuck in a 2-star review on the poster, but
Really?
positioned it between them so it looked like they were standing in front of the other stars. So someone gave them a 2-star review, but they slid it and they positioned it and photoshopped the poster in a way that the stars were sitting like between their elbows, so it looked like their elbows were blocking 2 other stars.
Oh my god.
Which I think is a beautiful way of being like, well, screw your rating system.
Oh my god. That's crazy. That's now I need to go find the poster. Now I need
Here
to
it is.
go find the
Oh,
poster.
when Messing was 3, she moved with her parents and her older brother Brett to East Greenwich, a small town outside Providence, Rhode Island. Oh, no.
No, that's so incorrect. That is
Oh,
fix it, Zach. Go and fix
I
it.
don't
You
have
have
to
the
find
power to do
like
that.
I know, but it's like it's the thing. I'm also too lazy about it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna forget
exactly.
about this conversation in 2 minutes. I'll still be on the call and I'll forget I brought it up. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird how reviews have just been so integrated into culture. now, and they've always been there. It's always been there. I just feel like with Rotten Tomatoes becoming bigger and bigger, it has become bigger and bigger. Reviews have become bigger and bigger, and everybody has access to a computer. Well, not everybody has access to a computer. That is not the best thing to say, but everybody can give their opinion.
But now, if you don't have
and,
access to a computer, but you have access to TV Guide, or even if you're watching television,
yeah,
the
like-
ad will probably tell you if it's got a fresh
Yeah,
tomato rating.
exactly. But even that, like, it's also everybody can give their opinion. Everybody can give a review. Before you couldn't, so it wasn't as huge and part of the culture. Now it's like that is the conversation. The conversation is about reviews and not movies.
Right.
It's-
And how people are going to react to things as
Exactly.
opposed to just
The
enjoying
actual
what's
movie.
put in front of you.
Exactly. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that. It should be about whether or not a movie entertained you and whether or not you had fun. And, you
Yeah.
know.
Which is, in short, why Sorry to Bother You is a better movie than you said it was. You're a bad reviewer. How'd that?
That was good. That was a blindside. Good for you.
It's also, you could say the same thing to me about Suicide Squad.
True.
So really,
Very
I
true.
mean,
I just didn't think to say it. You
Uh,
did, and that's what makes you better in this moment.
in these last
In
minute
these
and a half.
last few minutes.
I don't.
man.
Do you have anything else? To
I
say?
really-
I mean,
I think I've said everything. I don't know. I think we've
Uh,
reviewed enough of the
yes.
reviews.
Everybody, make sure you're looking at more than one person to review your stuff. That's all I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
it's
Always look for different reviewers, different sites, different
yeah.
review metrics, and like whatever it is you think you're looking for out of like film and games and all of that. There's probably a few reviewers out there who
Yeah.
look at them the same way, and then will give you kind of a better idea of what you are looking at. Not saying that they would have the same taste as you, but like if you, like we said at the beginning, if you're like looking to review a movie or if you're looking at a movie and going, did the author get the thing they intended on the screen, and is the cinematography good, all of that, there's reviewers out there that look at films the
Yes.
same
Oh,
way.
definitely.
And so,
Or you could just not read reviews and just go see movies.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I follow a whole bunch of different like media sites on Twitter, the hell site. But that also means that I know most of the movies and stuff that I want to see months, if not years, before they ever come out. So I don't ever have to watch a trailer. Like I knew Halloween was coming. I watched the
Yeah.
teaser trailer when it first popped up, but that was because I knew it was coming like weeks in advance. And I knew Venom was coming before there was a Venom trailer and all of that. So there are ways to know what's coming without having to worry about the story being spoiled for you. And if you can make that decision without needing the review and stuff, go right ahead and do it.
Exactly.
I mean,
Live your life. Try not to let reviews live your life for you. Right? That's a good way to end this, huh?
yes, I think so. So this has been Hot Topic
Hot
from
topic.
Say Report Jr. Forgot I named it that for a second. You can find us on Twitter at Say Report Jr. You can find us on YouTube at Say Report Jr. You can find us individually on Twitter at
Woo.
Zerwisky. Oh, I'm at Zerwisky. Sorry.
I was gonna say what?
You can find us both at Zerwisky individually somehow. You can
Somehow
find-
because time is crazy and the internet is infinite. What? You can find me at Dale's Brain on Twitter. Yeah.
I guess we still get ice cream at the end of this. I'm trying to think if there's any.
Oh,
I can't
no.
think of a Hot Topic related things. Let's go get sweatbands, like
Biscuits.
wristbands, and Nightmare Before Christmas jackets and Nintendo T-shirts.
Let's not get the Nightmare Before Christmas jackets.
I haven't actually stepped in a Hot Topic in years. I don't know if that's become
Let's-
obvious at this point. But
No,
I'm
that's
just-
okay. They still sell a lot of Nightmare Before Christmas, but like, let's just forget about that stuff. Yeah. So everybody should still just get ice cream because ice cream is brilliant.
yes.
Ice cream is
Great.
brilliant.
And on that note, take it away, Liz.
Oh my god.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your hosts Dale Decker and Zach Sarowik. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.